Tuesday Topics series this winter focuses on some of the many services and resources that the library provides to our community related to critical issues and topics in the news. Our topic today is children's literacy. Our presenter is Tanya Burton, Children's Services Consultant for the Monroe County Library System. Tanya Burton initiated the Raising a Reader program here at Central, which now serves 480 families. In addition to the Raising a Reader program, the library actively participates in many other community literacy initiatives and collaborates with the Rochester City School District on issuing library cards to all RCSD students. Tanya will talk about children's literacy as a national issue, how she brought Raising a Reader to Central Library and the impact that that has had, and the importance of events such as the Take Your Child to the Library Day and other collaborations that the library has throughout the year. Tanya will be joined by Dr. Hiley from the Nazareth College Summer Study Program, who will be discussing findings from a recent project about using library space and how families maximize the library here at Central and throughout the system. Please join me in welcoming Tanya and Dr. Hiley to the podium.
Good afternoon. I'm not used to standing in place. I'm used to moving around, so I'm going to do my best. All right. So there are lots of different literacy initiatives throughout Monroe County, through the city, and throughout the country. Children's literacy is a hot topic. High school graduation and third grade reading level have kind of brought that to the forefront, and lots of people are talking about it. There are all kinds of initiatives. There's the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, there's Reach Out and Read, and here in Rochester there's a Ready Rosie, which is an app that parents can use. And when I came to Central from a town library, I really wanted to be able to work with families as a whole to help them just reach their maximum potential. And I was looking for different things and different ways that we could reach out. And an article in School Library Journal about the Raising a Reader program was left on my desk by a colleague. And she said, this is what we have to do. And she was right. Raising a Reader, I was attracted to it because it works with the whole family. It looks at changing the culture of what happens in the home and giving parents the tools that they need. I'm going to go through some quick slides and talk about what Raising a Reader is. And I will let you know that when I gave Susan information about it, we were only at 400 and some families. As of today, we're at 601. So what is Raising a Reader? So it's a take-home book bag program that encourages families to read together in their home. It's part of the literacy curriculum and it promotes family engagement. The bags and books are rotated on a weekly basis. So we go into Head Start sites in different schools. The kids get a red bag every week to take home with great books in. And I have a sample bag right here if anybody wants to look at it later. And then they can share those books with everyone in their home. The parents do commit to doing this because we want to make sure that they understand about caring for the bags and caring for the books, and that we offer different programs just for Raising a Reader families as well. So Raising a Reader is a national organization, and their mission is to help families develop, practice, maintain a daily habit of book sharing or book cuddling. It's a habit that research demonstrates is essential to developing reading skills. Now, we are not teaching kids and babies to read. That is not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're pouring a foundation for families so that when they get to school, they're ready to learn to read. And Raising a Reader is a unique, scalable program and family enrichment or family engagement program. So that means that we're not just sending the books home. for parents to read and to do it on their own. We are actually working with the families at the Head Start sites, at daycares, inviting them into the library, and we're giving those parents tips on how to best share books and share literacies with their children every day, and talking about the importance of developing family literacy habits. I think one of the most important things that we do is we meet the parents where they're at. We know a lot of the parents that we work with may not have high literacy skills themselves, and we know English may be their second language, or they may not be comfortable sharing books because they don't have a high literacy rate. So one of the things that we do is we put in wordless books, and we show parents how to do a picture walk. So that's simply just going through a book and reading the pictures. What's going on this page? And empowering parents to be able to do that with their children. It's developmentally appropriate. It helps with holistic skill development and internal motivation. So Raising a Reader's core model is to develop family routines and book sharing routines in the home, to practice weekly book bag rotations, and then help maintain that school and library connection. Raising a Reader is aligned to many different standards. It's aligned to New York State Common Core, to Head Start, to Early Head Start, Next Generation Science standards. Raising a Reader program aids are family engagement, healthy brain development, early literacy and language development, intrinsic reading motivation. And so how does it do it? I'm going to go through these slides very, very quickly. If anybody wants more information, I could talk to you about Raising a Reader all day, but I'm really excited to have Dr. Hiley here to talk about some of the other things that we do. So Raising a Reader helps promote family engagement. Like I said, we work with the adults in the home to help them feel comfortable with sharing books. We provide education to them in the form of fun programs, fun things they can do with their children. Brain development, we know that brains are built, not born. So during the first 3 years of a child's life, there are 700 connections in the brain, and they are created every second. So we share that information in parents through different activities to help them understand why it's important that they read the same book to their child every single night, why it's important that they talk with their child with whatever they're doing, whether it's changing their diaper or feeding them and singing them songs, and helping parents understand brain development. Again, meeting them where they're at so it makes sense to them and so they understand the importance of what they're doing. We know that the brain grows through sound, touch, sight, and talk, and we share different tips and tricks with parents on how to do that. The third aim is early language and literacy development. So through exploring books, listening to stories, talking, singing nursery rhymes, and then those meaningful interactions between a parent and child. We talk to parents, we work with a lot of infants and talk with the parents about how important it is that they touch their baby and look into their baby's eyes every day. And there are parents who don't understand why that's important and understand what just looking into your baby's eyes and saying, I love you every day does to them. And sometimes that's the one tip that we give them in our workshop and help them feel comfortable doing it, because not every parent is comfortable with that. Okay, so intrinsic reading motivation. So there's two key factors linked to intrinsic reading motivation. So an individual needs to want to learn about a topic, and then when they have a high level of self-efficacy associated with reading, when they feel good about it, they're going to want to do that. So we do what we can to make the kids really feel great about books. They get about 100 books in their home throughout a school year, rotated, and these books are selected through the Raising a Reader staff to make sure we're giving kids new worlds and mirrors and windows to look into. I don't know if you've heard those terms before, but we want kids to be able to open up a book and see themselves. That's extremely important. But then we also want them to see other things in the world too. So we take a lot of time to make sure that we are getting these books, the best books out there on the market that we can. We expose the kids to new ideas, encourage them to look further into a topic. If every child seems to love the dinosaur book, then we'll do a dinosaur program for them and share information about dinosaurs. And give them a choice of the books that they read. In each bag, there's 3 or 4 books, depending on the grade level. And we don't ever say you have to read every single one of those books. Read the books. If you have a favorite, read that over and over again. If you don't like those books, let us know and we'll get you some different books. Having a child be able to select their own book increases their motivation. Just like if we told you you had to read a book that you had no interest in, how many of you would finish it? Maybe not. So we want to make sure that kids have choice. Library staff support the Head Start sites as much as we can. We do the bag rotation. We go in, we set it up. You can see there's a chart that we give, so each child has a card, and on the back of the card is the book bag number that they had today, and then when they return it, and then the book bag they get next week, and to make sure that each child gets every bag throughout a school year. We incorporate the program into the site's curriculum. If there's a story time or if they're doing different activities and they need library staff to help, we're right there to help them. And we also help the parents and the schools prevent material damage and loss, which for us, we're actually very lucky, is not really an issue. We have very little loss. So this is what a Raising a Reader visit looks like. So an implementer arrives, and an implementer is a librarian. They look through the bags, they make sure that the books that are supposed to be in each bag are in each bag, make sure we didn't get, any books from home or other places, make sure there's not a diaper in there or something else. And we love it when we find those things, because that means those families are using those bags everywhere they go. And if that's their tote bag, that's awesome. So we make sure the bags are clean, all the books are good, ready to go. If they're not, then we replace them with new books or bags, whatever they need. Then the librarian will share one book from a bag with the kids. And we do this because we know that kids drive the process. If kids are into something, we want them to bug their parents or grandparents or aunts about it. So if there's a book that Miss Lauren goes to their school and she reads it with the excitement that she uses and she sings a song about that book and you just love it and you can't wait to get that book and you finally get that book in your red bag, you're going to bug the adults in your house to share that book with you until they do it. And that's what makes the program work, that excitability. And then we also have a song that they sing, which we don't have time, but Lauren and I would be happy to sing it for anybody after. So in the bag, there's 3 to 4 high-quality books. It could be an award-winning book, books with diverse characters. Depending on the class and the language spoken in the home of the family, there'll be books, bilingual books. We have books that have STEM concepts, books on financial literacy, and wordless books. There's a Share a Book With Me DVD for the families to read or to watch. And then sometimes we have different activities. Raising a Reader has been really a phenomenal program. It's helped us build up parent information, parent skills, teacher skills with literacy. It's helped us connect with kids in so many different places across the city and with teachers. In the very beginning, we noticed that a lot of the parents, they just didn't feel comfortable with what they were doing, or they might just need, sometimes you just need kind of a pat on the back. So in the very beginning, we started doing a Parent of the Month award, and you can see this first picture up here with Amy, one of our Raising a Reader staff, who's no longer with us, but a mom. This mom, everywhere I go that I see her, she's like, "Library lady, what up?" and hugs me. I don't know what her name is. I don't know how she remembers me, but we gave her that award. She was the first one to get the award, and she said nobody had ever told her she did something right. In her whole life, nobody ever told her she did something right. And all what she did that day, to all of you here, probably seems like no big deal. She brought her child to the library. And we made such a big deal out of it. Amy ran in the back. She made this certificate up. And that mom now, that was probably 5 years ago at least since Amy was started. And she still remembers me. I just saw her at Blue Cross Arena for the toy giveaway this past Christmas. And she checked in with me and hugged me. And that's awesome, from a piece of paper, and just say, "Hey, thanks for coming today." We also know that if you know anything about the state of early child care in this country, and this city in particular, teachers who teach at Head Start sites are exhausted. They don't have the resources they need. They don't have, sometimes they don't have great, beautiful spaces that you would think a child care center would have. So we also now do a Teacher of the Year award for every site. We choose a teacher who maybe just needs that buildup, or maybe has been exceptional and great to work with. So every year we choose a teacher. So this is a picture of Miss Sarah at Southwest Family Resource Center. And she actually shared with us later that she was thinking about quitting that year. But because we were able to help her and she had some other support, that she kind of felt like, okay, I'm revitalized again, I can go on. And she's still there. Not just because of the award, but because she has that support. So we support the parents, we support the kids, and we try to make it as fun as we possibly can. So throughout Raising a Reader and other literacy things, the only reason any of this works is because we have a lot of people and organizations that we collaborate with. I started this putting some of the organizations' logos on, and I didn't have room for everything, but these are the main organizations or schools that we collaborate with. The City School District, Head Start. Our Raising a Reader program is in every early Head Start site in the city. We're hoping to put, so that's the 0 to 2-year-olds. We're hoping to get it into the older kids as well. We collaborate with them. We do a lot with PBS Kids. I don't know if any of you saw, we had Cookie Monster here. Things like that only happen through PBS, which is a great organization to work with. We work with Rock the Future, Summer Leap, Hillside, U of R, RIT, and Nazareth. All support us in many different ways. And so next, I'm going to invite Dr. Hiley from Nazareth up to talk about one of the ways that Nazareth has worked with us last summer on a project, just helping us evaluate what we're doing in the library. Dr. Hiley?
All right, so I am Lisa Hiley. I am a faculty at Nazareth College, and my clinical training is that I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I'm super fortunate to have two students here, so I'll let you introduce yourselves. They're going to help a little bit.
I'm Tessa Miller.
I'm Abby Zich.
Yes. So Tessa and Abby are brand new graduate students, but they also did their undergraduate work at Nazareth. So we're going to talk a little bit about a project that we collaboratively did with several of the librarians, Tanya and Kara from WXXI. So I do want to say this is a unique opportunity. Nazareth provided us funding so that we could pay for Abby and Tessa's time over the summer, as well as some materials, and that was through our Office of Research, Scholarship, and Innovation, really with the opportunity to promote research at the college, to engage students, and to really make meaningful student connections. So I do want to recognize that as a small funding source. So I have had the great opportunity to work with Tanya over, I don't know, several handfuls of years now, and we continue to think about how are our connections, from my perspective, being particularly interested in language and literacy, and then clearly the spaces of the libraries and the importance of the spaces of the libraries here in Rochester. So I think we've had a lot of coffee meetings, and at one particular coffee meeting, I said, hey, Nazareth has this opportunity where we can engage some students in some summer research. Would that be useful if we thought about what partnership would look like for students, for myself, for you, and Kara from WXXI was there as well. And where we ended was that we wanted to think about the library experiences for children and families here within the city of Rochester. And we said children between 0 and 12. We wanted to think about those babies, those preschoolers, and then headed into school age. We wanted to get families that had young children. But we also wanted to recognize that there were high utilizers of the library during the summer months and lower utilizers, or people who don't use the library at all. And we specifically focused on the summer because we know in this community, and Tanya mentioned the work with Summer Leap, there's a tremendous focus on providing early learning and summer learning opportunities because the research is overwhelmingly supportive that we need meaningful, high-quality programs for children to fend off what we know is summer learning loss in the area of reading and math as well. So we wanted to focus on the summer. for, like I said, those high utilizers and low utilizer families. And we wanted to hear about the perspectives of families, but we also wanted to know what that meant for the librarians too, because we think about, and Tanya mentioned this through Raising a Reader and all the other programs, that librarians are partners. Libraries are safe spaces. Librarians are trusted people within communities, and they're present all the time, right? So we wanted to know what the perspectives might be that are similar and what the perspectives might be that are different. So as we were coming up with how we were going to go about working together, we thought about trying to understand the offerings. So what happens in libraries specifically over the summer from the perspectives of librarians and families? What are the environments like, and are they accessible for all families? So accessible physically, but also from a time perspective, from a space perspective, and so on. Because we wanted to think about, with all that's going on in Rochester, yet with our still really underperforming scores in a lot of areas, how can we think about libraries and the utilization of libraries from diverse perspectives during the summer months? So that was a very long coffee conversation. And then I went back and did some work on my end to think about how we could get this through from a research perspective to make sure that we were approved, from a human subjects perspective. And that's where we got to the place where we said we're going to have multiple ways to understand, or we're going to have multiple inquiry methods. And this is where I'm going to turn it over to Tessa and Abby, because they were really the feet on the ground. I have to say, being an instructor, being a teacher is amazing in a lot of ways, but there are moments that you remember. And one of the moments from the summer that I actually felt really proud, I think I told them that already. Tanya sent me a picture of them at one of the sites. One of you was holding a baby, and one of you was talking to a family, and it just showed that we were in a site with families within the community trying to understand. And they were undergrads at the time, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to let them talk about the inquiry methods primarily, because they were the ones who made that happen. So interview first.
All right, so kind of the big portion of what we were doing this summer was conducting interviews with the librarians and the families. So we kind of tried to sort the interviews into 3 categories. So we started off just generally talking about what literacy meant to the librarians and the families. And then that's when we kind of moved into the programming, the materials, and the supports in the libraries. So in regards to the programming, we kind of talked about what programs were most attended, what programs were least attended, and also what programs were maybe missing in the libraries. And then we would kind of shift into the materials, and that was kind of talking about just the general library space, what spaces there were to read, maybe to write, things like that. And then also talking about materials that were used the most, materials that were used the least, and maybe some materials that were missing in the libraries. And then again, moving into the supports. So this was kind of talking about just like advice for the librarians, so like what they would tell other people, and just trying to figure out how to bring more families in and how to improve that participation in the library. So we also, with each interview with the librarians and the families, with the families, we gave them each a literacy kit that we made up. So there were bird kits, magnet kits, chalk, things like that. So we were giving those to the families along with gift cards. And then for the librarians, we gave out 2 gifts and a gift card as well. So next, which was part of the process, was the photo journaling. So at each interview, we were giving camera kits, 1 per library, for the librarians and the families to use. So that came with the camera and all the accessories, things like that. And we also had a photo log sheet so they could describe the pictures they were taking. And then the direction sheet that we kind of described with them as well. So basically what we were asking the families and the librarians to do was to just take pictures of what they perceived as literacy in the library. And we intended for this to be very open-ended and broad, so we could really kind of get their like overview of what they were seeing in the library, what programs that were happening, and the different materials that were being used. So we were just getting that broad view of what was happening.
So after the second interview, we also completed a Cello, which is the Child Home Language and Literacy Observation Tool. And that was just sort of looking into, so this is like overall what we collected from the summer.
Sorry, I'm going to change.
That's okay.
Keep talking about the show.
So we talked about, the Cello mostly looked at sort of the space of the library. So that was sort of looking at what books were, like how many books there were, what available materials that were out, like including like writing materials and toys, what types of toys, basically what literacy materials were around. So I remember one of them was asking if there was an alphabet present that you could see. And generally just was looking at the space of the library where the kids were.
I'll go here. Okay. The last piece, and I think I tried to cut, and maybe I cut the wrong slides. So
That's okay.
We also did a survey out in the community with folks that we went to neighborhood fairs and just general public community events. When we were in the libraries, we recognized that those were going to be our high utilizer families, but we wanted to make sure that we were finding low utilizer families. What was kind of interesting is the families that we encountered and were willing to do our survey actually were utilizers of the library. So the people that are showing up to community events are also showing up to the library. But in total, we had 63 surveys. We had it available in both English and Spanish. We did 7 cellos because we were engaged with 7 of the RPL branches. We had 10 librarians that were willing to spend some of their time with us over the summer. 4 families did both the initial and the final interview, as well as the photos, and we were able to collect over 200 photos. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will tell you a little bit about what we found. So with regard to the interviews, so thinking about the interviews is both at the beginning of the summer and the end of the summer. We had 9 major themes that came out. So I'll just pause for a moment and let you read these, and then I'm going to go through some of the higher points. So one of the things that we found, these are some direct quotes. I know it's small, but I'll highlight what it means. One of the things we found from both the librarians and from the families at the beginning and the end of the summer is that the library is a play space for them. It's a space in their community where they see materials and they see opportunities to be present with their children. So you can see their first quote is talking about puppets. People are talking about the games that they have. You can see the photo here is one of the photos that we collected, a family able to go to one of the branches and play a game that they don't otherwise have at their home. And they're really saying that the toys and the spaces that are available matter to them because it's a place to play, which is really awesome because, we often think about libraries as places to quietly read, but families of young children are saying libraries are more than that to us. Families in several cases, as well as librarians, were saying that the libraries are really fabulous because there's a coordination that goes on. In some cases, the coordination is with daycares and with programs that are bringing their children to the library. And in some cases, it's with schools. And then there was some recognition that there's also coordination with the larger initiatives here in Rochester with regard to Summer Leap. So I think this coordination shows relevance and acknowledgement of the breadth of offerings that we have here in Rochester. Along with the play piece, families and librarians were talking about recognizing the library for its expanded purposes, right? Not just a place where you go to access the computer or to check out books, but also to have really unique and really fun experiences that are close to home, right? So you can see some images here of a cooking class. There were musical events, there were outdoor events. The summer, of course, is our ideal time for those outdoor spaces, but really recognizing that people were coming here for experiences. Many times they were checking out books. When we asked families, most of the time, 50+% of the time, people were also checking out books. But 50% of the time they were coming for the experience. They were coming for the play. They were coming for the event that was being offered. Some talk about diversity and access, I think less than I thought there would be, but there was some talk about diversity, particularly with regard, and Tanya hit on this in her presentation with regard to raising a reader, that there was an intentionality in being sure that the books were representative of the families that were using the branches. The mirror and window piece, I think, is really a great metaphor. So recognizing that there's particular intentionality and making sure that the materials are culturally and linguistically relevant to the families. Some families talked about that, and librarians definitely did. One of the things that I think I was pleasantly surprised about when reading through all the interviews was there were families that were talking about the libraries as play spaces and expanded spaces for opportunities, but really being an ideal place for family connections, saying I can go there and I can have a really awesome experience with my child. I think that's a really powerful statement. It's a safe space. It's a space with enough materials and opportunities, but it's a space where kids and families can connect in a meaningful way. One family was even like, I tell them that they can't be on the computer because we're going to be together, kind of a thing, which I thought was really fabulous. So in the interest of time, I'll continue to go through and say what was interesting about pairing interviews with the photo journal is that we can see some similarities in what people are showing us and what people are telling us, right? The photos allow for that imaging and that connection to the interviews. So like I said, we have a little over 200 photos that are taken by librarians and families. We use digital cameras, the world lets us take images in a lot of ways, but we wanted to make sure that we had them in one particular place. And we looked at the pictures in the same way that we looked at the interviews and tried to find themes. So we categorized the themes of the photos in 3 primary ways. First, we had lots of photos that fell into a category of reading experiences. Of course, the library is providing many programs and many opportunities that promote and foster reading and that intrinsic motivation. We also had some photos that were more broadly literacy focused, and then we had a lot of photos about play-based opportunities that are also literacy opportunities. So these are just a selection of a few of the photos that show the reading experiences or the breadth of reading experiences that families and librarians are capturing during the summer months. What's really awesome is a lot of them are outdoors. So it's nice to think about the green spaces that are around the libraries and the safe parking lot spaces and those types of things. There was chalk art and activities that were outside on the grass and in parking lots and so on. So you can see that many of them are the sort of traditional story time pieces. There are also a fair number of adorable dogs. So clearly people love reading to the dogs as a primary reading experience. There were some images that showed reading digital literacy, so thinking about computers and iPads and those types of things, kids and families using them together. But then there are also a number of images that were families reading together. So you can see the one in the top right. It's a mom and a daughter sitting on a couch reading together, right? The library provided that space for that reading opportunity, that quiet and intimate reading opportunity that maybe they didn't otherwise have at their home, depending on what is going on. So really thinking about the photos showing us the breadth of reading experience, both formal and informal. So like I said, there were some pictures that talked about like literacy-focused things, so more than just reading. One that I thought was really interesting, and Tanya and I have talked about this in some of the trainings we've done together, is the idea of print awareness. And I talked about this in class. These ladies have heard me say, one of the earliest parts of literacy is kids recognizing that print has meaning. So I actually sort of like chuckled when somebody took a picture of the stop sign, because it was as if they were doing a print tour of their neighborhood, which was really fabulous, right? They had this photo, they had this picture, and they had this prompt, and they said, we're going to go find text, and that text was in the environment. So, and the great news is there's amazing signage at the library. So we're filling libraries with print. And then there were the sort of traditional, what I think of as traditional summer literacy, like fill out your reading log. When you fill out your reading log, you get your prize. So there's some writing, some logging, and some incentivizing for literacy. So maybe intrinsic and extrinsic motivation for those literacy-focused activities. The overwhelming number of pictures were play-based opportunities that embedded literacy. So you can see there's kids playing outside with chalk and letters and numbers. You can see that there's games on the lawn. You can see that there's songs and finger plays and lots of musical opportunities, formal and informal. You can see that there are games and crafts and opportunities for kids to come together with other kids, but also kids to come together with their families and the other adults and the librarians in the space. Sometimes the librarians are featured as the sort of primary folks, but in many cases it's the kids together and it's the kids with their family members. So the last piece I wanted to hit on for today was the cello. I think I might have actually texted Tanya this. Like, I actually remember being in DC for a conference, and I was going through all these cellos, and I was like, the great news is, just like we would expect, when we do this observation of spaces, of literacy spaces, all of the libraries are identified as excellent spaces for early literacy learning, right? Exclamation point, we knew that to be true. Because when we think about what are the materials, experiences, and opportunities, the libraries provide that, and we can confirm that using this particular tool. If we were to think of any of the items on this particular observation where there's room for improvement, although you can see in the images there's lots of writing and pretend play. Writing and pretend play, those sort of structured spaces where kids can just write, where there's maybe dress up, where there are more puppet theaters, those types of things, were the only potential opportunities for thinking about the spaces and the materials that are provided within the spaces. So we had, I think, a really awesome summer. It was exciting to see Tessa and Abby in the community and partnering, and we are thankful for this partnership and this opportunity to share some of this with you. So, thank you.